Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm very thankful to the organizers, particularly Dr. Chitra, for this kind invitation to be here today. The topic of my presentation is a very pertinent one because it relates to common radiology questions to postgraduate students. It is most important that postgraduate trainees have a thorough knowledge of sectional anatomy on USG, CT, and MRI of orbit, and also of the brain. It is equally important for them to have a basic understanding of the imaging technique of various modalities, including the newer imaging techniques with all the recent developments that are going on from day to day. They should also be able to suggest the most appropriate investigation as per the clinical evaluation of the patient's condition. So what should be the common questions to be put to postgraduate trainees? For one, they should be able to give a description of normal sectional anatomy of the orbits. And they should be able to suggest what is the most appropriate investigation of choice in a particular clinical scenario during their exams. Imaging features of certain more common congenital, infective or inflammatory and neoplastic disorders of orbits should also be known to them on USG, CT and MRI. They should also be asked what are the conditions in which extraorbital imaging investigations are required while imaging the orbits. For example, how important is it to investigate the brain and spinal cord in suspected cases of demyelinating disorders involving the orbit and the optic nerve? Questions to the trainee should include the contraindications of imaging modalities like CT and MRI. For example, they should be aware that CT scan is not the preferred modality during pregnancy, and MRI should not be advised in those patients who have MRI incompatible implants. Ultrasonography should be used wherever possible if CT and MRI are contraindicated. So let us see some examples. This was a 3-year-old male presenting with left visual impairment. Clinically and ultrasonographically, he was suspected of a retinoblastoma. Of course, he was sent for an MRI of brain and orbits with contrast. MRI showed a large susceptibility artifact obscuring the left globe. You can see it here. Evaluation of the intraocular as well was not possible on MRI because of this artifact. So now in this kind of a scenario, the postgraduate trainee should be asked what investigation to do next because ultrasound has already been done. So the answer should be a CT, which will reveal the radio-opaque intraocular metallic foreign body and associated retinal detachment. There was no evidence of retinoblastoma in this little boy. Another example, this is a 16-month female with left orbital injury with bamboo stick. This is not a ferromagnetic foreign body implant. So an MRI would be the imaging modality of choice because it would show the foreign body as well as the extensive orbital edema, suspected abscess, etc. much better than CT. And of course, ultrasound in this patient would be difficult because of the painful condition. Next question, which I would like to ask postgraduate trainees is, in this kind of a clinical scenario, a 28-year-old male presenting with left visual impairment of acute onset. So what investigation is needed? If the answer is MRI, the postgraduate trainee should be able to suggest what is the most important and appropriate sequence. Of course, it is the STIR sequence, which shows the signal intensity of the optic nerves in a beautiful way, which is this is the normal and this is the abnormal optic nerve showing the demyelinating plaque. In this kind of a situation, what should be the additional imaging which is needed? Of course, one has to look at the brain and the spinal cord to see if there are any demyelinating plaques like in this patient and in this patient who was diagnosed finally as multiple sclerosis. That was a plain scan. So now the next question to the trainee should be, when should we use IV contrast in CT and MRI? For instance, this is a 12-year-old female with acute onset bilateral visual impairment. Both optic nerves are showing patchy areas of increased signal intensity on the STIR images. The obvious answer would be a follow-up with a contrast enhanced study where you can see the patchy enhancement of acute bilateral optic neuritis. Now, this is another patient who came, 37-year-old female, severe headache, vomiting, and visual blurring. The MRI is showing supratentorial as well as infratentorial dilatation of the ventricles. So what is causing this hydrocephalus? Unless we give contrast, the answer will not be there for us to see. After giving contrast, we can see that there is thick meningeal enhancement, pachymeningeal enhancement, as well as some amount of leptomeningeal enhancement extending into the internal auditory canals. So it was because of the granulomatous meningitis which was leading to hydrocephalus and which in turn was giving the patient symptoms including blurring of vision. So finally, just as the patient, the postgraduate trainee has to answer when to use contrast. One of the questions to the trainees should also be when not to use IV contrast in CT and MRI. It is important for them to be aware of the contraindications of contrast media use. For instance, anaphylactic reactions at any time in the previous to this particular investigation. If the patient has any reaction to an iodinated or gadolinium contrast, if the patient is in severe renal failure condition, or if the patient is pregnant. In these situations, contrast media is to be avoided and the postgraduate trainee should be able to give these answers in the examination. So in conclusion, I would like to say the knowledge of radiology and imaging needs to be part of the training of postgraduates. This will help them to be confident about their subject before they venture into the challenges of ophthalmological practice. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Especially in connection with these pandemic times, I wanted to ask a specific question related to black fungus.
Yes.
When an ophthalmologist is referring a patient to rule out if there is mucormycosis, what do you suggest? MRI with contrast, plain MRI or a CT scan? What is the message you would like to send to the postgraduates?
The investigation of choice is contrast enhanced MRI of the brain, paranasal sinuses, and the orbits. That is the investigation which we are doing routinely now, particularly in this pandemic period. We have had quite a few patients coming to us with mucormycosis. So MRI of brain with orbits and paranasal sinuses with contrast is the investigation of choice. CT can also be helpful to see the bone erosions, etc. But MRI is definitely the superior investigation.
Thank you.